This is CBC Vancouver News.
Another rental scam uncovered in the Lower Mainland.
Is not a comfortable feeling.
This time the home belongs to a former cop. Also, the ongoing internet blackout in Punjab hits close to home.
She's gonna come back. She's a Canadian, right? What about the other families living in Punjab? So they are going through this every day.
Families in this country desperate to contact loved ones. And turmoil in Tassis.
We're going to talk as long as we want. Listen. No, I'm not listening. I have the gavel.
What happens when small town politics has big city drama? Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Michelle Ghoussoub. Dan is on assignment this week. Tonight we have yet another rental scam to warn you about. This time the target was the home of a former Vancouver police officer. As Angela Starrett reports, the story has now prompted the company involved to vow to crack down on fraudsters.
It really feels like you've had an intruder in your house.
Paul McNamara couldn't believe it when he learned his new Westminster home was being shown on a rental site. CBC News is not showing McNamara's face as he now works undercover.
When you see your personal space, advertised without your permission and knowing that it's being used in a scam is not a comfortable feeling.
The listing featured 30 photos of his 3-bedroom, 4,000 square foot heritage house, all to rent for $2,000 a month. He asked Rentals.ca to take the listing down and filed reports with the US Police and the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. When he felt no one was investigating, he emailed the alleged scammer himself.
The email was from a Reverend Benjamin William. Some long explanation as to why he can't show me the house. He's in California. A relative or somebody is sick with COVID.
In text, the alleged scammer asked for a $1,500 deposit via e-transfer. The CBC contacted the email address that McNamara was communicating with, and a person wrote back saying, "I'm not in the state. For interview, you can only drive by the home." The person emailed again, asking the CBC if they'd like more details or pictures of the home. Finally, 2 days after McNamara made the report, Rentals.ca took the ad down.
You think about over the weekend when he had my house listed for rent. There could be anywhere from 5 to 10 victims looking for a house.
In an email, Paul Dannison of Rentals.ca says, "We employ a full-time fraud analyst and use AI to detect scams." Dannison says he can't share how potential landlords are vetted because that information could be used in new scams.
There are more and more people that are coming forward saying that they've been victimized.
In 2022, the Vancouver-based rental platform Live.Rent reported that suspicious listings have nearly tripled from the year before. Kotak says vetting potential landlords isn't rocket science.
Making sure that they do a video call with the potential renter so they can verify that is the exact property that's being listed.
And he urges potential renters to do their homework.
Make sure you visit the property. Make sure that you do a walkthrough of the property. Never e-transfer any money.
New Westminster Police say they have contacted the rentals website and hope they and others understand the need to respond and remove fake ads. Angela Starrett, CBC News, Vancouver.
The transit strike gripping the Eastern Fraser Valley is now in its third day. Labour Minister Harry Bains tells CBC he's watching the situation closely and has a mediator on standby. But so far, ownership and the union are rejecting that offer. The strike is having a major impact on people from university students to those with low incomes. Yasmin Rania spent the day calculating just how much it would cost you to get around Abbotsford without a car.
So we're here at a bus stop in Abbotsford. Normally you would take this bus to go to the University of the Fraser Valley, but bus drivers are currently on strike. So we're going to see how much it costs to run a few errands today. But right now I'm going to check how much it'll cost to take an Uber from here to the University of the Fraser Valley. We have a car, so we're not actually going to take an Uber, but it would cost $11.55 for one ride, whereas bus fare is $2.25. Let's go. So $11.55 later, here we are at the university. Students have been doing this for days now. They have to take Ubers or else walk really long distances. So we're gonna talk to some students now who are facing this problem. So you took an Uber to get here today?
Yeah.
How much did it cost you?
Probably over $100 for sure.
Yeah.
Because it was like, what? Like a 45-minute drive from there to here, so it took a long time, yeah.
To university right now, it took me more than half an hour. With the bus, this almost takes like 10 minutes. And for my work, I'm doing everyday Uber. I work at High Street Sephora, so it costs me $25 every day for like one way. And then it's like the price surges around the time when it's like most busy. Yeah, as a student, it's a lot.
So as you heard, the transit strike is really affecting people. It's putting pressure on their schedule and their budget. So now we're going to head to a popular shopping mall and we're going to see how much it'll cost us. We're going to compare it with Uber, Lyft, and a cab.
Taxi.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, exhausted. How are you?
How long will it take to get a cab from the University of the Fraser Valley to High Street Mall?
Maybe 20 minutes, half an hour.
Oh, wow. And do you know how much it'll cost?
Probably about 20 to roughly 25. I'll say 20 to 30 just to be on the safe side.
So let's go to Lyft. It says $16.83, and it's 3 minutes away. So we spent over $11 to get to the university, and then it would be another $20 to $30 to take a cab to the mall, or we take an Uber that's just over $16. So we spent quite a lot of money today, and we still need to pay for a ride home. Now, today we're in Abbotsford, but the strike is affecting other parts of the Fraser Valley, like Hope and Chilliwack. And in Chilliwack, there is no Uber or Lyft. The union that's on strike says it sympathizes with people bearing the brunt, that some of its members have friends and family that are being impacted. But it says there aren't any scheduled talks with the employer, so the strike continues with no end in sight. Yasmin Ranea, CBC News, Abbotsford.
One man is dead after a fight with an unknown man in West Vancouver last night. Police were called to Argyle Avenue and 21st Street for reports of a man seriously hurt. Officers won't say how the man died. The Integrated Homicide Investigation Team is working with West Vancouver Police to pinpoint a motive and identify a suspect, but they say it was likely an isolated incident. A new long-term care facility is coming to Vancouver's South Cambie neighborhood and will be built on the former site of St. Vincent's Hospital.
I think this is exactly the moment when we have to keep our debt to people who've lived in long-term care and work in long-term care, to continue to build a system that is worthy of all of us, of where we would want to be, where we'd want our families to be.
Construction on St. Vincent's Heather long-term care home will begin in 2025. When completed, its 13 stories will include 240 beds, complete with community spaces connecting suites to accommodate families, as well as dental and primary care services. The project is funded by Providence Healthcare. The BC Search and Rescue Association says it's receiving fewer calls for help, evidence that call-outs are returning to pre-pandemic levels. Calls from hikers, backcountry skiers, snowshoers, and others in distress dropped from over 2,000 requests in 2021 to 1,500 requests in 2022, a significant decrease from projected calls for help. BC Search and Rescue says that numbers may have dropped as people shift back to travel and indoor activities that were paused during the height of the pandemic. As spring arrives, you may be keen to get out into local parks. Once again, Vancouver officials are reminding you to try to keep peaceful with coyotes. It's denning season for the wild animals, and pups are being born this time of year, meaning they'll be behaving more boldly to take care of their families. The park board is asking park goers not to leave out food, stay off closed trails, keep pets on a leash, and give wildlife space. Anyone caught feeding wildlife in a Vancouver park could be fined $500. Coyote warning signs, new garbage cans, and a patrol program were brought in last year after dozens of coyote attacks in Stanley Park in 2021 led to a cull. The city of Vancouver is asking for the removal of a residential school memorial at the art gallery, and 3 local First Nations involved support the request. The memorial was created in May 2021 after the remains of 215 children were believed to have been found at the former site of the Kamloops Indian Residential School. It includes 215 pairs of shoes on the gallery steps and has become a site for remembrance. But now the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations are supporting the removal of the memorial in order to use the items in a traditional burning ceremony.
It was the city that reached out to the 3 nations asking for help in regards to the memorial site. And so we shared with the city our protocols and our culture.
The city has not yet confirmed a date for the memorial's removal, but it plans to send the items to Kamloops so that the nations involved can use them in ceremony. A village council meeting on Vancouver Island erupted into chaos last night. It ended with screaming and one councillor stealing a gavel. And as Justin McElroy reports, it's not the only small community in the province facing so much dysfunction so early in their terms.
Tassis. It's a town on the edge of Vancouver Island with one of the best welcome signs in the province and one of the loudest council meetings you'll ever see.
We're going to talk as long as we want. Listen. No, I'm not listening. I have the gavel. You can go. I don't care what you got. You do not treat us like that.
That was last night at the beginning of the meeting, after members of the public went well over the 2-minute time limit. People continued to ignore the 2-minute time limit, and it went downhill from there. At one point, a rival councillor gets so upset that he takes away the gavel. Not that that solves anything.
I don't need that. I can do this. It's very funny.
You can say the chair of the meeting, Councillor and Deputy Mayor Sarah Fowler, could have handled things better. But you could also say the same of the people in attendance.
Unanimously passed a motion of censure and related sanctions for Councillor Elliott's contravention of section. Bull. If you can please, let us get on to the work of this business meeting.
That's not work.
Excuse yourself if you cannot.
No, make me leave.
Section 117 of the Community Charter.
Disclosing
information.
So what is going on? The short answer is the rest of council voted to censor the other councillor who took Fowler's gavel, Doug Elliott. They did so after months of Elliott making disparaging comments about staff and accusing 2 other councillors of being in conflicts of interest. Essentially, he believes the town is being fiscally mismanaged and, as he put it in an email to CBC News, full of fascism. The rest of council disagrees. And because nobody seems to be able to back away from the conflict, here we are. Now, this is the 3rd small town in BC where council has descended to chaos less than 6 months after the election, following Lions Bay and Harrison Hot Springs, both of which are now getting help from the province. In a time of polarization, these things seem to be happening more. But why is it more susceptible to small towns? Here is a chart. It shows the number of voters needed to elect a councillor in BC's biggest cities, and the number needed in the 3 small towns we've been covering lately. When everyone in town knows each other, the potential for conflict and allegations of conflict is much higher. It brings to mind once again Tassis's welcome sign, but it also brings to mind what's on the other side of it as you leave town. Justin McElroy, CBC News, Vancouver.
Internet shutdowns continue in some areas of Punjab, India, amid allegations of a statewide crackdown targeting Sikh activists. This comes as police hunt for Amritpal Singh, described as a preacher for a Sikh separatist movement. As Yasmin Gandham reports, the shutdown means many in BC's large Sikh community are cut off from their family.
I feel really happy, actually.
A sigh of relief after Harpreet Sahota found out his mom will be returning to Canada this week. She traveled to India to visit family in January. This comes after he and his family lost touch with her for almost a week.
Some of the roads are blocked, and some of the area doesn't have internet. There is no access that you can talk to someone.
But Sahota says he's lucky and feels concerned about the region as a whole.
My mom is a one person. She's going to come back. She's a Canadian, right? What about the other families living in Punjab? So they are going through this every day.
This photographer living in Abbotsford says he is worried for his parents, who he has not been able to speak to since the shutdown.
until I have a communication and until I know my grandparents are there as well, and until I have communication with them, I'm definitely concerned. My family, we're trying to find ways to get in touch with them. We try to contact other relatives in other areas of Punjab to see if they can drive to our village and inform us what's happening, but we haven't been able to get in touch with them.
Sahota, who owns a local dance school, says young students are also in Punjab and he hasn't been able to reach them.
Some of our kids are in India, right? And we are still trying to get in touch with them through WhatsApp messages or the Snapchat or the text message with the families, right? Are they okay? Are they safe?
Members of the Sikh diaspora like Sahota say watching the events unfolding in Punjab right now are triggering and bring up intergenerational trauma from the past.
1984 was an inflection point for the Sikh community, and that coincided with Operation Blue Star, which is basically a military operation that was carried out to the most holiest places that is in Sikhism, which is at the Golden Temple.
This is a continuation from what happened in the farmers' protest, where we saw all across the world, farmers were protesting in the diaspora and in Punjab about what the rights that farmers in Punjab should have.
Protests continue throughout India and around the world, including here in BC. Some arguing against the hunt for Amritpal Singh, others arguing against the internet blackout, all concerned about family caught in the mess.
It's still happening since 1947, and I hope one day it stops.
Yasmin Gantim, CBC News, Vancouver.
Unless you're going with a group of friends or like you're really drunk, you're probably not going to have a good time.
How would you rate Vancouver's nightlife and how could it improve? A new survey seeks the answers. We take those questions to the streets next. Thanks for watching our commercial-free live stream. An Ottawa woman recently found her passion for painting after experiencing anxiety and depression. Now she hosts paint nights to help others express their grief.
When I can't find the words to explain exactly what I'm feeling, I put it on a canvas. So I grew up a person that doesn't really like to talk about her emotions. It really became like the first therapy for me, the first thing, like kind of like the first person that I would go to talk to and just throw my emotions on. Well, my name is Dorothy Kanku. I am an artist and entrepreneur, and I host my own paint and sip events in the city of Ottawa under the name of Drip and Paint, where I host a bunch of paint classes to create a safe space for creative expression and also to support mental health. I wanted to also have people just feel safe, like have a safe space for even if it's 2 to 3 hours in their day. Maybe they're coming home from, or they're coming from an abusive home. Maybe they're coming from, you know, a bad relationship or a stressful day at work. So for 2 to 3 hours, they get to come to these events and just kind of relax and meet new people, network, you know, laugh at their painting or laugh at their friends painting next to them. Drip and Paint is going to be hosting its very first art exhibition called Essence Noire. So it'll consist of all the Black creatives, whether they're in music or Black painters, digital artists. There's going to be a few of them doing live paintings. They're going to be displaying their work, their prints. They're also going to be selling their work as well. And it's going to be really, really cool, really, really fun. There's also going to be a local artists performing, a couple of them, on the lineup. So I really wanted to do an art exhibition because I started off as someone who, and as an artist, nobody knew. It's an all Black lineup of Black creatives, whether in music or in arts. So that's what I wanted it to be surrounded by. I started to put myself on like social media because at first I was really, really shy. Like I would not even be sitting here right now like if I was still as shy as I was before. Just had to keep creating, and then I started posting on, you know, Instagram, for example, and people started to see my artwork and they're like, hey, like, you do that, why don't you be a part of my art exhibition, or why don't you come display it here, or can you do like a custom art piece for me? I just feel like You know, people of color have a certain essence that is sometimes hard to explain. The word noir is just simply black in French, because my first language is French, so I put the two words together and it just made sense. So I'm like, eureka, okay, let's call it that.
It's a city known for natural beauty, delicious food, and not a huge nightlife. But is it possible for Vancouver to shake its reputation for being a no-fun city? A new survey from local tourist and hospitality groups is asking people how to amp up the city after dark. We took to the streets to ask people what they would change.
Vancouver's nightlife, it's often thought of as pretty bland compared to Toronto's and Montreal's, and a new survey is asking people how to amp up the nightlife here. And we're curious too, so let's ask around. Vancouver's nightlife, what would you rate out of 10?
If you compare it to other cities, it's Vancouver is very, very low.
6.
I would say 5.
Maybe a 9. But if we're talking about the Strip, maybe a 4.5.
Like a solid 6.
Probably a 5.
Why that?
Everything closes very early.
The music, I'm not a big reggaeton fan, and pretty much all of the clubs in Granville Street are like reggaeton and stuff.
There's some good examples of like after hours or more like underground events. There's like U+1, Gorgamish, there's Basement. You just walk down like Granville Street and walk into a random club, like unless you're going with a group of friends or like you're really drunk, you're probably not gonna have a good time.
Well, I'm from a different country, and down there, the nightlife starts at like 12.
Trying to extend the hours, like people don't want to go home at 2. Maybe like try to make it more spread out than just a Strip.
What do you want to see change?
What I want to see change of better incentive structures for businesses to throw better parties legally in the city. Like more development from the city.
Now, the survey will help create a nighttime economy office to figure out what to improve and how as the city grows with more people and businesses. And some say the consultation is long overdue. The CEO of Destination Vancouver says no more no fun city. What do you want to see in Vancouver's nightlife? Let us know in the comments.
This was sunset from Eagle Chair on Cypress Mountain, looking cold but sunny. Johanna will have your full forecast next.
Queen of the North is gone. A huge passenger ferry vanished beneath the waters of BC's Inside Passage, leaving only an oil slick on the surface. Nobody knows why it went astray, but the passengers today found themselves steaming north on a Coast Guard ship heading back to Prince Rupert, where they started their nightmare voyage yesterday.
It was like 12:30. We heard a crashing noise, and the ship went to one side, and then it was a louder crash, and then none of the sirens went off right away, and then everybody realized what was happening, and then the sirens went off.
The ferry was off course and ran aground. Instantly, it took on water, and the Mayday call went out.
The neat part about it was all of a sudden all the lights went out on the boat, and somebody yelled out, says, somebody put a spotlight on it, and at that time the nose of the boat was sticking straight up in the air, and then it just went straight down and disappeared.
The crew got everyone into the lifeboats quickly, but this is a remote area and it was dark, cold and wet. There's only the tiny, impoverished Aboriginal community of Hartley Bay nearby. But the people of Hartley Bay went into action. Bruce Reese went straight to his boat and set out in the dark.
They were, I guess, socked, and I mean, a lot of them weren't even dressed for to evacuate the boat. Some of them didn't have coats and didn't have shoes, and some of them were wet.
Danny Danes was another who raced out onto the water to bring the passengers to shore.
While we're running in, I was watching where I was going. Those guys said, "Oh, look, it's gone down." So she went down. Then I heard from the passengers after that they said when she went down, they could hear all this crunching and noise going when it sunk. Like they figure it's all the cars banging together or something.
Of course, the people of Hartley Bay could have simply rolled over and gone back to sleep when they heard the Mayday call. But nobody here even seems to have considered that. Instead, just about everyone who had a boat used it immediately. They went out there, they picked up the Shivering Shipwreck passengers and brought them here to the local community centre, gave them blankets and food and clothing, and did all of this really fast. The Coast Guard was still an hour away. Mona Danes organized the community to bring food and blankets. In an isolated place like this, she says people help each other.
One heart.
What do you mean by that?
We always say Saikulam God.
What does that mean?
One heart. To just everybody just comes together and has the one heart to think of the other people. Because one day it will happen to us too. And
in the end, an aging ferry was lost, and why that happened is not yet clear. But that the little town of Hartley Bay showed some heart, that is clear. Tony Malewski, CBC News, Hartley Bay, BC.
We're sharing really important information with the public, and I feel like this is exactly what our job is, especially as the public broadcaster, especially in morning radio. That's incredibly important.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace, installing the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
And it's the time in the show to bring in senior meteorologist Johanna Wagstaffe. Joe, how about that sunshine today?
Oh, everyone talking about it, Michelle. Sunny and warm across not just Metro Vancouver, pretty much the entire province, getting to share in this stunning spring weather, as is the case in bumper season on the West Coast. It's not going to last, but it's not a complete reversal of seasons either. Let me start you off with the temperatures we hit today across the province. 17 in Pitt Meadows, now 12 at YVR, but inland sections of Metro Vancouver, looking at some citizen scientists, temperature gauges, 15, 16, 17 degrees for Metro Vancouver, 18 out towards Hope. Warm on the east side of the island as well, seeing those mid-teen temperatures, and a 17 down towards Osoyoos. So yeah, feeling a good 3 to 5 degrees above seasonal across most of the province. So as I said, things are changing overnight tonight. In fact, as we speak, we're seeing those clouds move in from the west thanks to this next Pacific system, kicking that high pressure out. Now, the one good news, losing the high pressure, for all of you in the valley and the interior, those air quality statements have been adding up with that sinking air. So this fresh round of showers should clean that out. Now, before I break down the next couple of days, really after our first full true spring-like day, wanted to show you the seasonal outlook for the country over the next 3 months for spring. And we do still have a lingering La Nina. It's waning. We're headed towards more of a neutral pattern in the Pacific waters that changes weather patterns all around the world. But as you can see with the blue on the West Coast, most climate models still indicating an overall cooler than normal next 3 months for the West Coast. That's not to say we won't have days like today, but also watching those weather patterns closely as we head toward our spring freshet. Okay, getting you through the showers for the next day, really ramping up overnight. It's sort of an on again, off again shower story through your Thursday, lingering into Friday. We may see a few showers as we head into the weekend, but Michelle, all in all, not a bad looking forecast. Look at that, something for everyone.
All right, can't complain.
Nope, me neither.
All right, thanks, Joe.
You're welcome.
And that is your late news for Wednesday. Thank you so much for spending your night right here with us at CBC Vancouver. For news anytime, visit our website. That's cbc.ca/BC. Your next local news is on the early edition on CBC Radio 1 tomorrow at 5 a.m. Good night.